What up, what up, what up? This is Cameron Chardukian, and I'm coming at you from the Saigon Center night market here in Ho Chi Minh City. I got this sweet, let me get this in the view, I got this sweet passion fruit drink. It's humongous, do you see this? It's like the size of my head, and I have a big noggin. And anyway, what I want to talk about with you in today's video are my top 5 tips for living in Ho Chi Minh City or Saigon. My number 1 tip is to not live in the Pham Ngu Lao or Bui Bien area. And the reason I say that is, well, it's fun to come here, to go to the bars or go to the restaurants, things like that, get some Western food. It quickly gets old living here, having people try to sell you overpriced tourist goods and things of that nature. It gets old fast. Oh, and the other thing is that accommodation and food is a lot more expensive here too. So that's something to consider as well. And another thing to consider is, well, if you're not going to live in Pham Ngu Lao or Bui Bien, which is considered like the tourist trap of Ho Chi Minh City, a place where all the fresh new backpackers go. And it's cool, but if you're not going to live there, where are you going to live? I recommend that you live elsewhere in District 1. Pretty much anywhere else in District 1 is great. District 3 is a good option, also close to the center. And aside from that, you also have Bintan. A lot of foreigners like to go there. And District 2 and District 7 are kind of expat hubs, so consider those as well. Now, piece of advice number 2 is to try the local foods. When you're here in Saigon, there's going to be a lot of stuff that we don't have in the West. There's so many things that you're like, oh, I never saw that before. That looks kind of weird. I recommend you try that. And part of the reason is it's a new experience, something interesting for you to try. And that's part of the reason to travel, to have these new experiences and broaden your horizons, so to speak. The other thing is that food here is so cheap that most of the dishes are $1, $2, $3 at the restaurant. So having that new experience, or even just consider it for the entertainment value, $1 to try a new food and have a novel experience, it's so well worth it. And you'll find that some of these new foods, they seem weird, but you come to love them. Bun Trang, Bun Cha, Pho, Bun Ril. There's so many new foods here, and even after 2 years of living here, I'm still finding new stuff on a probably monthly basis. So in short, try the local foods. You won't regret it. Piece of advice number 3 is to make local friends here, especially if you're living here. If you're living here, make local friends or date locals. Why should you do that? It's because by befriending or hanging out with local people, you're going to find the spots that locals actually go to, which obviously isn't the tourist places that most of the backpackers go to. And although making friends with expats is cool, and they can show you some nice places, oftentimes the locals know places that even the expats don't know. And beyond that, hanging out with locals will also show you new ways of thinking, and locals do things differently sometimes. And even if you don't agree with what they do, you can learn from them. Sometimes you can learn from them, but if you don't agree with them, at least you gain perspective that the way you did things back home, you can appreciate that. And if they do something better than you, you can learn. Piece of advice number 4, get that 4 in the camera. Piece of advice number 4 is to manage your cost of living carefully. Now, the cool thing about Saigon is that it can be as cheap or as expensive as you'd like it to be. For example, I've seen shared accommodation for less than $1 a day. Now, granted, that is living in an attic with 3 other Vietnamese guys in a shared bathroom, and I'm sure they'd be very uncomfortable. But, so that's probably about as cheap as it gets. But on the other hand, they also have luxury villas for a couple thousand a month in some of the more upscale districts. Luxury villas with private pools and a maid, and it could be very luxurious as well. So there's many options, but what I would tell you or recommend to you is that you manage your cost of living carefully. And what I mean by that is do not allow the cheap prices of the city to overinflate your standard of living expectations too much. Don't get too used to having inflating expectations for how you're going to live your life, because you could spend that money in other ways that could be more beneficial to you long term. So instead of renting some apartment for $800 a month that has a pool, you could live in a similar place that doesn't have a pool and it's not quite as luxurious for maybe $350 a month. And you could use those extra $400 a month to invest in your business, or to give yourself to work less hours so that you have more time to develop long-term sustainable skills, or you could even just invest the money. Regardless of which option you choose, you give yourself a lot more flexibility in how you live your life and better long-term options if you don't allow your standard of living to continually inflate due to this city's low prices. Final piece of advice is to understand that the good comes with the bad here, and to remember that you're living in Vietnam, or you're living in Saigon, or you're living abroad for a cultural experience. You're not living abroad to have the exact same existence that you had back home. And with this in mind, you won't be frustrated by some of the annoying things that can happen on a daily basis here. For example, when people are smoking and they blow their smoke at you, or the pollution, or the sometimes disorganization or poor service at restaurants. You won't allow those things to frustrate you too much. And I think that's very important. Now, also, it's that by remembering that the good comes with the bad, if you remember that, you'll also appreciate all the good things that this place has, and you won't focus on those bad things so much. You'll say, oh, well, I love living here because the cost of living is low, and the people are friendly, there's always lots to do, and the weather's awesome. So the food is excellent. This is a food paradise. So there's lots of things to love too. And by remembering that the good comes with the bad, this will allow you to focus on those good things rather than constantly dwelling on the negative things like a lot of the expats I've seen here do. And that's very important, so you don't become jaded and that you can fully appreciate your time here. So I hope you enjoyed these 5 tips for living in Saigon. I'm gonna shoot out now. We've got a night market out here. Gonna maybe go try some food, and I will talk to you again soon.